Chris Mannix here in San Antonio with Ben Golliver for SI.com. Ben, 5 championships now for the San Antonio Spurs. One just seems more impressive than the next. Where do you rank this title for San Antonio against the ones they've already taken?
David Robinson's right over your shoulder. I think he might disagree with me, but I'd actually say this is the best one yet. The main reason why I say that is how dominant they were during the postseason. They actually had the best net rating of any team since the 2001 Lakers when you're talking about championship teams. They just blew teams away. I think they had 12 different games where they won by at least 15 points in the playoffs. It's just an unbelievable margin of victory, and they did it again here tonight. Of course, both Tony Parker and Tim Duncan called this the sweetest title, not only because it's been 7 years, but because of what they went through last year. I think you add all those factors up, and you're talking about a truly special title, and it would be number 1 on the list.
Yeah, I've got a soft spot in my heart for that 99 championship team, the one that stormed through the playoffs, but I agree with you. The depth that this team showed in this postseason was remarkable, and I guess we shouldn't be surprised by it because they showed this type of depth all season long. They were the deepest team in the leagues in terms of bench scoring during the regular season. Guys like Danny Green and others, they stepped up all season long and did it here again in the playoffs. But Kawhi Leonard, one of the starters, what a remarkable journey he has had over the last couple of years. Tim Duncan talked the other day about how he thought that Leonard, when he first showed up in 2011, wasn't quite that good. He was a guy that didn't have much of a jump shot. 3 years later, we're talking about the Finals MVP. How impressed are you with Kawhi Leonard?
Well, the best thing is Tim Duncan said it. He actually said he's now honored to be on Kawhi Leonard's team because that's how well Kawhi Leonard played. I mean, talk about the transformation just in 3 years, but he was sensational in games 3, 4, and 5. I thought his defense was there in the first 2 games, but it was really a two-way performance in these last 3 games. Over 20-plus points here tonight, and I thought the game-changing play was his three-pointer in the second quarter to actually put them ahead. They had dug such a big hole in the first quarter. He knocks that 3 down, and it's sort of like now you know it's going to be their night.
Yeah, and I've been saying this since last postseason, and I've been saying it because smarter people have been telling me it, but this Kawhi Leonard, his ceiling really is Scottie Pippen to me. I think this guy has that potential to turn into a two-way superstar in this league, and at 22 years old, it's frightening to think about how good he can be down the line. Now, Boris Diaw is someone that San Antonio is going to have to make a decision on this offseason. He's a free agent. He's going to have a lot of suitors after a series like this. How important is he, do you think, to bring back to this mix?
Oh, can you see him leaving? I can't. Personally, I think the big conversation this summer is going to be, can you believe how cheap he decided to re-sign? Because I could totally see him taking like a $6 or $7 million a year type of contract for maybe 2 or 3 years just to keep this party going. Because when you look forward to next season, I mean, obviously there's some question marks around the Heat, but everybody else on the Spurs roster is back. You've got to look at these guys as potentially, if not the favorites, then one of the top 2 or 3 favorites to be able to repeat. San Antonio has never repeated before in their history. If you're Boris Diaw, why do you want to leave that? Why do you want to go anywhere else besides the team that totally resuscitated your career?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Diaw, because of the relationship he has with Tony Parker and the trust that Greg Popovich has shown him over the last couple of years, I think that's going to bring him back. He might have to leave a little bit of money on the table, but coming back here into this situation, it just makes too much sense for him. And I'm not all that convinced that he's going to have to leave that much money on the table. The Spurs do have some financial flexibility this summer. They only have Diaw and Patty Mills who are going to be free agents. If they want to bring him back at a good salary, I think they can still do it.
Oh, no question about it. And, like I said, it's all about the peer pressure because all these other guys have taken discounts, right? Duncan took a discount. Parker took a discount. Ginobili took a discount. So now these guys can kind of look at him and say, hey, man, if we're going to do this again, if we're serious about winning a 6th title, why don't you leave a little bit on the table and we'll go out there and make some other additions?
A bigger name the Spurs might have to worry about is Tim Duncan. Has a player option for next year at just over $10 million. Do you see any scenario where he turns that player option down and walks off into the sunset?
Well, he was pretty coy. I was kind of expecting maybe in his post-game press conference to finally just say it and say, I'm coming back, let's defend our title. He didn't do that. He just dodged the question. To me, he's crazy to leave. I mean, this guy is so effective, basically a double-double every night in the postseason. He didn't play that many minutes during the regular season, but you could still actually pull that down a little bit. You can get that into the 22-minute a game range if you wanted, and you could extend him, to me, another 2 or 3 years. I mean, I don't think there's any reason why he should walk away at this point.
Yeah, I talked to Brett Brown about this recently, and Brett was telling me that the key to Duncan has been his weight loss over the last 3 or 4 years. He is a much slender version of himself than, say, he was in 08 and 09. And given his conditioning, I think there's no question he can play the same type of season next year. And you're 100% right. His minutes can dip a little bit. I don't think they necessarily have to because he looked fine to me all season long. But Greg Popovich has done a masterful job at balancing him out during the regular season, maintaining him so he gets this point. I do think he comes back, and I think next year, even though the Spurs like to say to us, the media, that we throw dirt in our grave all the time, next year might be that year that's the swan song for all these guys. The last year of Tim Duncan's contract, the last year of Manu Ginobili's contract, both those guys into their late 30s. Greg Popovich, a lot of rumors out there, but he might want to take some time off at some point of his career. Next year might be the time that they all decide to walk away after the season. But this year, I expect them all to be back. And if they are all back, I expect us to be right back here this time next year having the exact same conversation.
If you're telling me I get 82 more games of these guys, plus, maybe 20 more in the postseason, I'll take that right now.